We attempted to negotiate, but Galactus... he asked too high a price.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. I had a chance to see the Fantastic Four movie. This will be my review video. Marvel had a lot riding on this movie. It used to be the last movie they were releasing right before Avengers Doomsday, so they really needed it to be a banger. As you all saw, they recently delayed Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars, giving them another bite at the apple like a whole other movie, Spider-Man Brand New Day, before Doomsday, so it does take a little pressure off the Fantastic Four, but we'll talk about whether or not it lives up to the hype. As you can see, I got the shirt on. Was it or was it not clobbering time? I'm probably going to have to see it a couple more times before I actually rank it against all the other post-Endgame movies, but it's definitely a step in the right direction from Marvel in terms of quality. There were some minor issues I did have with the movie that I'll discuss too. It's not a perfect movie in the same way that the Superman movie, which also just came out a little while ago, did a lot of really good things, but also had some big weaknesses to it as well. Really big heads up, just big warning, there are 2 post-credit scenes. Do stay after the credits. I will do a totally separate spoiler video for them later this week after the movie comes out in theaters everywhere, and I'll do a full breakdown of all the Easter eggs in the entire movie. So please do not post any of those spoilers on this video. Those are going to have to be some very long videos. Like, there is a lot to talk about, a lot to unpack in these movies. Marvel really swung for the fences. If you are a longtime Fantastic Four fan or a longtime Jack Kirby fan, you will be pleased. Like, you will leave this movie with a giant smile on your face. It is crammed top to bottom with Easter eggs and references to the classic Jack Kirby, Stan Lee comics, the previous Fantastic Four movie attempts, even a bunch of other pop culture from the real-life 1960s baked in. Generally, the vibe they were going for in the movie was half Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and half Stanley Kubrick, 2001: A Space Odyssey, both in terms of the aesthetic and the tone during different parts of the film. If you're gonna borrow from people, borrow from the masters. There were a couple of core aspects of the movie that were each really big creative swings that Kevin Feige and the director Matt Shakman took. One of them was just doing it as a flat-out period piece set in the 1960s of their alternate universe, and also going full Jack Kirby, full comic book. The best example of that is probably, like you'll saw in the trailers, a comic-accurate-looking Galactus.
I herald Galactus.
Whereas previous Fantastic Four movies, we all remember the floaty cloud Galactus, like Chris Evans' era, early 2000s, even the Fantastic movie in the 2010s were deathly afraid of being super comic accurate, thinking that it might look too goofy. This new Fantastic Four movie is not afraid to go there. It's also kind of like the new Superman movie in that respect, in that the Superman movie was designed to be like a comic book come to life. Like, James Gunn literally said that out loud, like, I wanted it to feel like a comic book come to life. It's kind of the same vibe with the Fantastic Four movie, and sometimes that does mean it gets very goofy. You've seen all the Fantastic Four trailers. I don't think it's quite as goofy as the Superman movie got. In the Fantastic Four movie, it's mostly a result of them trying to be period accurate in the way things felt, the way people talked during the 1960s. Generally, that whole retro-futuristic 1960s vibe of the film. That did help a lot with the suspension of disbelief in the way the characters speak and act, like just all the characters in the movie in general. One of the other major swings in the movie it takes is Franklin Richards making a baby the focal point in the movie. Star Wars just did it on the Mandalorian series with Grogu and Pedro Pascal also headlining. He's scooping up all the dad roles, protecting powerful children. People were making this meme long before he was announced for the Fantastic Four movie because of the Last of Us casting. To their credit, I feel like they made the right move. Franklin is a core part of the movie. He isn't just a plot device or a prop that the movie carts out just to gain your sympathy, like, ooh, look at the baby, and then just stash him away. No, he is like a really important part of the film. Matt Shakman said the whole idea was pitting the biggest, oldest thing in the universe, Galactus, coming into conflict with the newest, tiniest thing in the universe in Franklin Richards. Matt Shakman said a lot of the Franklin story in the movie was inspired by his own relationship with his real-life daughter. Matt Shakman, director, you will remember from WandaVision, he joined the movie after John Watts, director of all the Spider-Man MCU movies, dropped out citing burnout. And the movie totally changed under Matt Shakman. John Watts' version was not going to be a period piece. Based on reports, I think we are getting the superior version of a Fantastic Four movie. I am really happy that Kevin Feige let them set this in the 1960s, but they had a great template with the first Captain America movie. Like, it basically works the same way, where you spend the movie in that earlier time period, then you're able to leave the movie, and because we've seen the Avengers Doomsday chair watch, we saw the Thunderbolts post-credit scene, we have a pretty good idea of what the characters are going to be doing after this. Same basic idea with that first Captain America movie in the way that it left Captain America at the end of it. Generally, the whole movie will fill you with a sense of optimism and hope, the same way the Superman movie does. Like, there are some similarities in that sense in terms of the tone. Marvel's case, though, is through the family relationships of the team itself. Vin Diesel will be proud. Family is an F word. And the newly born Franklin Richards. Marvel really hit it out of the park with the casting. Some of you might be getting tired of seeing Pedro Pascal in everything. He is getting a little overexposed. Like, he's literally going to be in two of the biggest movies next year with Star Wars, The Mandalorian and Grogu movie, and then Avengers Doomsday later in the year. But he actually had a pretty good take on Reed Richards that felt accurate to the comics while being totally different from every previous version of Reed Richards. Both John Krasinski and Young Gruffett, there are other versions out there too. Fun fact, Young Gruffett even came to the Fantastic Four premiere. There were actually a lot of the classic Fantastic Four actors that were saying very nice things about the new movie, and genuinely so. Like, they weren't just kissing up to Marvel or anything like that. It's always nice to see actors in previous versions of movies getting recast and then actually having good relationships with the new actors and the studio after the fact. As we've seen over in the DC universe, it's not always the case. Probably one of the other biggest changes from previous Fantastic Four attempts was how they handled the Sue Storm character. Vanessa Kirby is like the heart of the movie. She described Reed Richards in the movie as the smartest man alive just in terms of raw intellect, and they do a good job of selling him as this very cold intellect in the movie. He really feels like he could sell that everything dies Reed Richards from time runs out. She said she was playing her Sue Storm as the most emotionally smart person alive, which is why she's so central to a lot of the way the team functions in their universe, in more administrative roles. Like, basically, she's more of the people person, and he is more of the brains. So it's one of the reasons why the movie puts her in such a much more prominent position of power, is because she's kind of like the glue that binds the family together in an emotional kind of way. They tuned the relationship between Ben Grimm, Thing, and Johnny Storm just a little bit. It felt like a great relationship. If you haven't seen Ebon Moss-Bachrach during Punisher Season 1, he was great during that. He's already been in the MCU, technically, but his really good work recently has been on the Bear series. His take on Ben Grimm feels very different from Michael Chiklis' version, also in the way they visualize the character. Instead of him walking around in a physical suit, it's motion capture like the way they do the Hulk. Michael Chiklis, to his credit, also was a total dude and said some very nice things about the new actors in the new movie. And another one of the biggest swings the movie takes and changes from previous movies is the Herbie character actually doing Herbie. There are a couple Easter eggs and deleted scenes from the Chris Evans era Fantastic Four movies, but that's about as far as they got. Also because those earlier movies were deathly afraid of seeming too silly or too goofy. Like, no, Herbie is too goofy, so they just didn't even try. This movie does get you to actually care about Herbie and makes him feel like he is genuinely part of the family, like the other characters care about him and interact with him the way you would with a family member. Now I would like to know when Marvel is going to start selling Herbies as merch that I can buy, like start selling some Herbie robots that we can buy. Of course, we have to talk about Galactus and Silver Surfer. Ralph Ineson was amazing. The way they did the character was a combination of motion capture and regular visual effects, so they actually did put Ralph Ineson in a Galactus costume on set for reference scenes. I hope they release some of that in the behind the scenes. We will see. He does a great job of selling Galactus as one of the major forces of the universe, this ancient god-like cosmic entity that cannot be stopped, like this literal force of nature. Julia Garner was an interesting take on his herald. Everyone's been calling her Silver Surfer as shorthand, but really she's playing Shala Bal, who became Galactus' herald after Norrin Radd. Silver Surfer was his herald, so she is canonical to the comics. I don't want to get too deep into the lore of the movie because of spoilers. We will talk more about why they used her character specifically instead of Norrin Radd Silver Surfer when I do my full breakdown Easter eggs videos. There will probably be a lot of questions about some of the choices that the movie made with the way it used the characters or twists that it used that we can talk about during my full breakdown video that do kind of get into spoilers. If you never saw her on the Ozark TV show on Netflix, she was solid in this movie. She wasn't as big a part as the trailers made her seem, but she is key to the Galactus plot. Like, she is an important character in the film. Generally, the movie was meant to be an adaptation of the original Galactus story in the comics called The Coming of Galactus, with changes made to some of the characters and the whole reason why Galactus came to Earth in the first place, so it's not an exactly copy-paste version of that story. And speaking of all the Galactus stuff, one of my small issues with the movie was that even though everybody has amazing chemistry, like the group is amazing together, they work really well, the pacing and the vibe don't always work once Galactus shows up in the story and things start getting real crazy, especially towards the third act of the movie when the scale just becomes universe-altering. Speaking of which, I will be really interested to see how the Russos handle this issue when they take on the characters during Avengers Doomsday. So if Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame are an example, their take on all these different characters versus other directors is always just a little different, so we'll see how they wind up handling them.
Kick names, take ass.
Yeah, that's right.
When it comes to Matt Shakman, though, he was the perfect guy for a 1960s period movie. I mean, just look at how well he handled all the period episodes of WandaVision through the different ages. The whole movie looked amazing in IMAX, but especially when Galactus does show up. It really sells the scale of him with the human-sized characters. I really hope Marvel brings the character back sooner rather than later. Like, he's such a huge character in the context of all of Marvel, not just the Fantastic Four. Also really interested to see how they handle Franklin Richards going forward now that he is one of the most powerful beings in the MCU. Like, there's just a lot of issues when you bring characters like that into stories, so we will see what winds up happening the next several years. You can kind of tell Marvel is using this movie to set the stage, do a little bit of table setting for things that they want to do down the line, so hopefully that all does get paid off, because Marvel has had a problem with that the last couple of years. Generally, though, this movie makes it feel like they're starting to fix some of those mistakes. One of the other major weaknesses of the movie was the Thunderbolts post-credit scene and the Avengers Doomsday chair watch video for obvious reasons. Like, those kind of spoil the end of the Fantastic Four movie in the sense that it let you know where the characters would end up before the actual movie itself came out. It didn't absolutely ruin the movie for me or anything like that, but it was weird that we learned so much about what's happening with them before we actually see them for the first time. We can probably lay most of the blame on that to the way the schedule just got completely scrambled with all the strikes and the delays with the pandemic. They probably had a much more airtight plan for how they reveal all this and how it all works together before all those disasters in real life. And if you haven't listened to any of the soundtrack, I think they put the entire soundtrack online. Michael Giacchino did the score. He always includes these weird, funny joke and reference titles for all of his tracks, so be sure you actually look at what the tracks are named when you listen to it, but the score itself is great. I don't think he's actually made a bad score. He does a lot of big movies too, not just Marvel movies. You also might remember him as the director of Werewolf by Night. Like I said, overall, the movie was not 100% perfect, but it was a really strong step in the right direction just in terms of quality and proof that they should have tried being more comic book accurate with these characters a long time ago. It really does bode well for comic book accurate looking X-Men characters in Avengers Doomsday and the new X-Men reboot movie down the line. Generally, it does feel like it's going to go down as one of the better of the post-Endgame Marvel movies. There's going to be so many things that we need to talk about after this comes out, so be sure to see it as soon as possible. Like, what's going to happen with Galactus? What are they going to do with the future of Silver Surfer? What are they going to do with the future of Franklin Richards? All spoilery stuff that we have to wait to talk about till later this week. Once you do have a chance to see the movie, post your reactions in the comments. Please don't post spoilers in this video, though. I'll do my post-credit scene video later this week. That should post on Thursday. We can talk about spoilers during that. Make sure you enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss any of those videos. Click here for that Fantastic Four post-credit scene video, and click here for my full breakdown and all the Easter eggs in the movie. I'll update those links as soon as I post those. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.